You didn't go to the gym. You didn't run a marathon. You didn't move heavy furniture or work a 12-hour shift. You sat. You scrolled. Maybe you watched a few videos. And somehow, you are absolutely exhausted. Sound familiar? Most people assume they're just lazy, or that something is wrong with them. But science tells a completely different story. Because your brain, it was working harder than you ever realized. Here's a specific type of exhaustion that has nothing to do with your muscles. Scientists call it mental fatigue. And it's just as real, just as draining, and in some ways, even harder to recover from than physical tiredness. The strange part is most people don't even recognize it as real fatigue. Because you didn't do anything physical. So your brain tells you, you have no right to be this tired. But your brain is lying to you. And here's exactly why. Here's something most people don't think about. Your brain makes up only about 2% of your body weight. But it consumes 20% of all your energy. Even when you think you're doing nothing, your brain is running an enormous background process called the default mode network. This is a network of brain regions that activates the moment you stop focusing on a task. It handles things like thinking about the future, replaying memories, imagining other people's thoughts, worrying about things you said 3 years ago. So while your body is resting, your brain is basically running a dozen programs at once in the background, and all of that costs energy. But mental fatigue isn't just from thinking. There's another cause that affects almost everyone in the modern world, and most people have never even heard of it. It's called decision fatigue. Every single decision you make, no matter how small, uses up a little bit of mental energy. What to eat, what to watch, what to reply to that message, whether to get up now or in 5 minutes. Researchers found that judges in courtrooms made significantly harsher decisions later in the day compared to the morning, not because they became worse people, but because their decision-making ability had been worn down by hours of small choices. By the time you reach the evening, you may have made hundreds of tiny decisions. Your brain is depleted, and you haven't lifted a single weight. This is also why successful people often wear the same outfit every day, eat the same breakfast, and follow rigid routines. They're not boring. They're conserving decision energy for the things that actually matter. Now here's where it gets really interesting. One of the biggest causes of modern mental fatigue isn't work. It isn't even stress. It's your phone. Social media is specifically designed to hijack your brain's attention system. Every scroll gives your brain a tiny burst of novelty, a new image, a new idea, a new emotional reaction. And your brain treats each one as something worth processing. In just 30 minutes of scrolling, your brain may have processed hundreds of images, emotional reactions, news stories, opinions, and social comparisons. That is an enormous cognitive load. And yet, because your body didn't move, it doesn't feel like you did anything. Researchers call this passive consumption fatigue. You consumed content. You didn't create, exercise, or genuinely rest. And your brain is now exhausted from processing all of it. Here's something that surprises most people. Lying on the couch watching TV or scrolling your phone is not the same as resting your brain. True mental recovery requires something called low-stimulation downtime. That means giving your brain input that is calm, predictable, and not emotionally demanding. Things that actually help your brain recover. A slow walk, especially in nature. Sitting quietly without a screen. Listening to calm music. Light conversation with someone you're comfortable with. Even just staring out a window. But watching intense TV, reading the news, or checking social media? Your brain registers those as more input to process. More work, not rest. So let's bring this together. You woke up and immediately checked your phone. You made dozens of small decisions before 9 a.m. You sat through meetings, conversations, or content all day. Your default mode network ran non-stop in the background, and you never gave your brain a single moment of genuine rest. Of course you're exhausted, not because you're lazy, not because something is wrong with you, but because your brain ran a full marathon today and nobody gave it water. The modern world was built to extract your attention at every moment. Notifications, choices, content, comparison. And nobody taught us that attention has a cost. So the next time someone tells you to stop being lazy after a day of doing nothing, you can tell them your brain burned through 20% of your body's entire energy supply today, and it did it without moving a muscle. If this made you feel a little less guilty for being tired, it covers why your brain keeps making the same mistakes no matter how smart you are. Subscribe. If you're new, we drop new videos every week. I'll see you in the next one.